August 12, 1521, Tenochtitlan, Mexico. Imagine a city built on water. Floating gardens, pyramids that touch the clouds, markets bigger than anything in Europe. A population of 200,000, larger than Paris, larger than London. The Aztec capital, the greatest city in the Americas. For 93 days, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés has been trying to destroy it. The people are starving, dying of smallpox. Bodies pile in the streets, but they still fight. But today, with AI technology, we can see what was lost. Using historical records, Aztec codices, and Spanish accounts, we can reconstruct the city that's been buried under modern Mexico City for 500 years. Tomorrow, August 13th, the last Aztec emperor surrenders. A 600-year-old empire ends in a single day. An entire civilization vanishes. This is Tenochtitlan, August 12, 1521, the last day of the Aztec world. Let me show you what Tenochtitlan actually was. When Spanish conquistadors first saw it in 1519, they thought they were hallucinating. One soldier, Bernal Diaz del Castillo, wrote, "We were amazed. Some of our soldiers even asked whether the things we saw were not a dream." Here's why. Tenochtitlan was built in the middle of Lake Texcoco, an island city connected to the mainland by 3 massive causeways. Bridges that could be raised to cut off the city completely. Think Venice, but 10 times more impressive. The city had pyramids, massive step pyramids with temples on top. The Templo Mayor, the Great Temple, stood 200 feet tall. You could see it from miles away across the lake. There were floating gardens called chinampas, artificial islands where Aztecs grew corn, beans, tomatoes, chilies. These gardens fed the entire city. There were aqueducts bringing fresh water from the mainland, canals everywhere. People traveled by canoe cars on streets. The main marketplace, Techalo, had 60,000 people buying and selling every single day. The Spanish had never seen anything like it. Cortes himself wrote to the Spanish king, "The city is as large as Seville or Cordoba. There are bridges, very large, strong, and well constructed." This wasn't some primitive village. This was one of the most sophisticated cities on earth. And in 2 years, the Spanish are going to destroy every single bit of it. So, how did we get to August 12, 1521? Let's rewind to November 1519. Hernán Cortés arrives with 500 Spanish soldiers, 16 horses, and a few cannons. The Aztec Emperor Montezuma II makes a catastrophic mistake. He welcomes them into the city. Why? The Aztecs had a prophecy about Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god returning from the east. Some believed Cortés might be that god. Spoiler, he wasn't. Cortés takes Moctezuma hostage in his own palace. For months, the Spanish live in Tenochtitlan as guests while essentially holding the emperor prisoner. Then in June 1520, everything explodes. The Spanish massacre Aztec nobles during a religious festival. The people revolt. Moctezuma is killed either by his own people or by the Spanish. We're still not sure. The Spanish are forced to flee the city in what they call La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. Hundreds of conquistadors drown in the lake, weighed down by stolen Aztec gold. Cortés escapes barely, but he doesn't give up. He spends a year building an army. He allies with the Talaxans, indigenous people who hate the Aztecs. He builds 13 ships to attack the island city from the water. And then there's the secret weapon nobody planned for, smallpox. The disease arrived with the Spanish. Aztecs have zero immunity. It spreads like wildfire. Thousands die. The new emperor, Quetzalcoatl, dies of smallpox after ruling for just 80 days. A new emperor takes over, Cuauhtémoc. He's 25 years old. His name means descending eagle. He is a warrior and he refuses to surrender. On May 26, 1521, Cortes begins the siege. For 93 days, the Spanish and their indigenous allies surround the city. They cut off the causeways. No food comes in, no water. The Aztecs are trapped on their island. They're starving, dying of disease, but they keep fighting. And now it's August 12, 1521, day 93 of the siege. Tomorrow it ends. Let me walk you through August 12, 1521 and Tenochtitlan morning. The city is dying. The great pyramids still stand, but the streets are filled with bodies. Smolok's victims, starvation victims, people killed in the fighting. There's no one left to bury them. The canals that once carried canoes full of flowers and food now carry corpses. The floating gardens are dead. No one has had the strength to tend them for months. The aqueducts bringing fresh water have been destroyed by the Spanish. People are drinking from the lake, which is salty and polluted. Emperor Cuauhtémoc is in the royal palace with the last defenders. Maybe 40,000 people are left. Just a few months ago, there were 200,000. Everyone is starving. People are eating bark, eating leather, eating whatever they can find, but they still have their weapons. Obsidian-bladed clubs, spears, bows, and arrows, and they still have their pride. Afternoon, the Spanish attack again. They've been attacking every day for 3 months, slowly taking the city street by street, building by building. Cortes has a strategy. Destroy everything. Every building, every temple, every house. He orders his men to tear down every structure they capture, so the Aztecs can't use them for cover to notch. Titan is being erased brick by brick. The Aztec warriors fight like cornered jaguars. They know this is their last stand. Their wives and children are behind them. There's nowhere to retreat to. Spanish steel swords clash against Aztec obsidian clubs. Cannons boom. The city fills with smoke. By afternoon, the Spanish controlled most of the city. The Aztecs are pushed back to one final corner, the Tlatelolco marketplace district. Evening, Emperor Cuauhtémoc gathers his remaining warriors and nobles. They know it's over. The question is, do they surrender or fight to the death? Some warriors vote to fight to the last man. We are Mexica, they say, using the Aztecs' name for themselves. We die as warriors. But Cuauhtémoc makes a different choice. He thinks about the women, the children, the elderly. If they fight to the death tomorrow, the Spanish will massacre everyone. He decides tomorrow he will surrender. But tonight they are still free. The night, the last free Aztecs gather in what remains of the great temple. They perform ceremonies. They pray to Huitzilopochtli, the war god. They sing songs that have been sung for 600 years. They know these songs will never be sung again. Mothers hold their children. Warriors embrace their wives. Old priests bless the people one last time. The stars come out over Lake Texcoco. The Great Pyramid stands silent against the sky. This is the last night Tenochtitlan exists as a free Aztec city. Tomorrow it becomes New Spain. August 13th, 1521. Dawn. Emperor Cuauhtémoc puts on his finest feathers and jewelry. He gets into a canoe with his family and his top nobles. They paddle out into the lake toward the Spanish ships. When Cortes sees the emperor approaching, he knows what it means. The siege is over. Cuauhtémoc steps onto the Spanish ship. According to Spanish accounts, he points to a dagger on Cortes's belt and says, through interpreters, "I have done everything in my power to defend my kingdom. Since fortune has not favored me, take that dagger and kill me with it." Cortes refuses. He takes Cuauhtémoc prisoner instead. The last Aztec emperor is 25 years old. In 3 years, the Spanish will torture him to death, trying to force him to reveal where the Aztec gold is hidden. But on August 13th, 1521, he surrenders to save his people. The Spanish soldiers pour into the last Aztec stronghold. They find thousands of starving, sick, dying people, women, children, old men, the last survivors of the 93-day siege. What happens next is brutal. The Spanish and their Tlaxcalan allies loot everything. They tear apart buildings looking for gold. They enslave thousands of people. They destroy temples, smash idols, burn codices, the Aztec books. Cortes orders the complete demolition of Tenochtitlan. Every pyramid, every palace, every building, all of it comes down. Why? Because he wants to build a new city on top of it. A Spanish city, a Christian city. Within months, they start construction on what will become Mexico City. The rubble of Tenochtitlan becomes the foundation for Spanish colonial buildings. The stones from Aztec temples are used to build Catholic churches. Lake Texcoco is eventually drained. The causeways disappear. The floating gardens vanish. By 1524, just 3 years later, Tenochtitlan is completely gone, erased, as if it never existed. Here's what makes the fall of Tenochtitlan so tragic. We lost an entire civilization. The Aztecs had writing, hieroglyphic books called codices. They recorded everything: history, science, astronomy, medicine, poetry, philosophy. The Spanish burned almost all of them. Of the thousands of codices that existed, maybe 15 survive today. Think about what we lost. The Aztecs were master astronomers. They had 2 calendars, one solar, one ritual that synchronized perfectly every 52 years. Their calculations of Venus's orbit were more accurate than Europeans at the time. Gone. They were master engineers. They built a city on a lake with aqueducts, causeways, and hydraulic systems that amazed the Spanish. Gone. They had a complex legal system, educational system, medical knowledge. They performed successful skull surgeries. They had a pharmacy with thousands of medicinal plants. Gone. Their language was sophisticated and poetic. Aztec poetry was beautiful, full of metaphors about flowers, jade, feathers, the fleeting nature of life. Most of it gone. The Spanish kept some things. They needed to understand the people they were ruling. A few Spanish priests, like Bernardino de Sahagun, interviewed Aztec elders and recorded their stories before they died. Those interviews are almost all we have left. Everything else was deliberately destroyed. Why? Because the Spanish saw the Aztecs as pagans, devil worshippers. Their culture was something to be eliminated, not preserved. But here's the thing. The Aztecs weren't innocents. They practiced human sacrifice on a massive scale. They waged wars specifically to capture prisoners to sacrifice. They terrorized their neighbors for tribute. That's why so many indigenous groups allied with Cortes. They hated the Aztecs. But does that justify genocide? Does that justify destroying an entire civilization's knowledge and art? History is complicated. So what's the legacy of August 13th, 1521? First, it's the beginning of Spanish colonial rule in the Americas. Tenochtitlan becomes Mexico City, now one of the largest cities in the world, but it's built on Aztec bones. Second, it's the near extinction of indigenous culture. Millions of indigenous people died mostly from disease, smallpox, measles, typhus, diseases the Europeans brought. Within 100 years, the indigenous population of Mexico dropped from about 25 million to 1 million. That's not war, that's plague on a biblical scale. Third, it created a new culture, Mexican culture, a fusion of Spanish and indigenous. The language, the food, the religion, all mixed. Modern Mexico is proud of its Aztec heritage. The Mexican flag has an eagle eating a snake on a cactus. That's an Aztec symbol. It's how the Aztecs knew where to build Tenochtitlan. But there's also trauma. The conquest is a wound that never fully healed. And here's what's wild. Tenochtitlan is still there under Mexico City. Archaeologists keep finding it. Every time they dig for a new subway line or building foundation, they find Aztec temples, offerings, artifacts. In 1978, workers discovered the Templo Maya, the great temple right in the heart of Mexico City. It had been buried for 450 years. They've been excavating it ever since, finding incredible things: masks, statues, the remains of sacrificial victims. Timajit never really died. It's just buried. And now with modern technology, LIDAR, ground-penetrating radar, AI reconstruction, we're bringing it back to life. We can see the city the Spanish tried to erase. We can walk its streets virtually. We can understand what was lost. Here's what Tenochtitlan teaches us. Empires fall always. The Aztecs thought they were eternal. They called themselves the people of the sun. They believed their empire would last forever. It lasted 196 years. The Spanish thought they were building an eternal empire in the Americas. That lasted about 300 years. Everything ends. Every empire, every civilization, every city. Let me leave you with one final image. August 12, 1521. Sunset over Lake Texcoco. The great pyramids of Tenochtitlan glow red in the dying light. The canals reflect the sky. Smoke rises from the fighting. The city is dying, but it's still there. Still standing, Emperor Cuauhtémoc stands on top of a pyramid, looking out over a city. He knows tomorrow he surrenders. He knows his world ends. But tonight, for a few more hours, he is still the emperor of the Aztecs. Tenochtitlan is still free. The sun sets, the last sun over the Aztec Empire. Tomorrow, everything changes. The city falls. The empire ends. Spanish priests arrive and baptize the survivors. Within a generation, almost no one remembers how to read the old codices. The language changes. The religion changes. The culture changes. Tenochtitlan becomes a memory, then a legend, then ruins under a Spanish city. But we remember, we can see it now with AI, with archaeology, with the few records that survived. We can see what they saw on August 12, 1521, the last day of the Aztec world. What would you fight for if you knew your entire world was ending tomorrow? Would you surrender to save lives or fight to the death for honor? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story made you think about empires, conquest, and what we lose when civilizations fall, hit subscribe. This was Tenochtitlan, August 12, 1521, the last day. Remember it.